I believe that the fires we're cast upon are the flames we shall become. I believe in a common calling where our temples pray as one. I believe in the word of wonder and a kingdom for the same.
Larry Pollock, Leo Mayrhofer here. We're missing Luke today. He's traveling to Turkey to get his hair done, even though he has lots of hair. I guess they're doing it for free so he can promote their thing. And so he'll be with us back next week. Today we're going to talk about a little bit about the Olympia stuff that happened. And we have two pro shows coming up. We have the Mexico Pro and the English British Pro this weekend. And also we're going to discuss the anabolic debacle that's happening around the world that we warned people about a while back, but now it seems like the full effects are hitting.
So now everything's going to get probably very expensive. But let's start with the shows that we have going on. Let's start with the British one, I think, because that might be more interesting in terms of, the people that are participating, because I'm going to pull it up right now. I mean, both shows are kind of have some good guys, but I think there's a strong favorite with Antonio Burton in Mexico, and here in the UK. I don't know. I think we'll see.
You want to pull up the list?
Yeah, I think we have here. You see that?
Yeah, it's coming up right now. So this is the British show, right?
Yeah. And we have as the favorite Krizo, Michael Krizonek. Mm-hmm. But obviously, Sasai, I think, brought his very best to the Olympia. He was bigger, and I felt even more peeled than before. We thought that was already end level, but he was even better. I'm a little disappointed, to be honest, with all of the shows of Andrea Musi, because on Instagram, the guy always his front lat spread. He has such great poses. And then on stage, he never gets it done. So I think, probably we have Pablo Lopez pretty far ahead. We have the very aesthetic Matthias Holweck, also probably in the top 5. And then James Hollingshead. Isn't this Lewandowski guy? Oh, Joanne Pradels is on there? Or isn't that the young guy? Oh, this guy's, he is very, I didn't follow him. He's very promising. People are like, this guy is the real deal. Look at him. So he could be a real upset here. If he is in shape, which here he doesn't look like he's fully peeled, but I don't know how far this is out. I mean, this is posted yesterday.
Right.
But as I don't speak Spanish, I can't tell you how much out this is. But this guy, he has everything, I think, that you need as a bodybuilder. He's super wide, huge legs. I think his back is also pretty good. So this guy could upset everyone, and he's definitely better at posing than Krizo. I think this will be the biggest.
He looks
factor.
tall. How tall is he?
Good question. I'm not sure, but I don't think he's short. I think he might be over 5'8". I don't know how much, but over 5'8".
Right. Well, I would say Krizo would be the favorite going into this based on past performances. But Sasan, he was on. And Sasan has, I think he's a little bit more complete as far as not missing parts. You know, he's got the hamstrings, the glutes, and the back. The stature, obviously, Krizo has the stature.
You see this?
Yeah, I talked to Sasan for a while at the Olympia. I interviewed him a little bit, and
Cool.
Super cool guy. But yeah, he's he's got it all going on. He's just a little narrow, and Krizo's wide. So I think Krizo's going to have like height and width, just overall size on him. But as far as like completeness, I think he's more complete.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because I think it'll just come down to posing. If Krizo learned how to pose, he can win. Because I've never seen Krizo not being peeled. He's always peeled.
Yeah.
Sasan is also peeled, but Krizo is the bigger guy, definitely. And they both have the same weakness, their backs. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I think if Krizo learned how to pose in the meantime, he's going to win. And if he didn't, he's going to lose.
Right.
So because Sasan will be definitely looking good. That's for sure. That's for sure. I'm like James Holling said, he just switched coaches again. What is going on with him? Do you know anything more about James?
I heard, he switches coaches like every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't which I guess he was with Chris Tuttle for a minute for the last show, and then he just was with him for like a very short time, and he just switched. And he says he just wants to learn from every coach what they're trying to do. But I don't see how, it takes a coach a minute to figure out how somebody's responding to different things. So if he's switching constantly, I would not take somebody on knowing that they're going to work with me for, a very short period of time and be gone. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends a bit, but probably not. Yeah. There must be a reason why he's switching so much.
Well, he says he's trying to learn from everybody's different style or whatever, but
but what can he learn if they can't learn him?
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, he's just making up his own stuff.
Yeah, and then why does he have it? If he learns from all of them, but he never gets it really like dialed in, then he's just wasting a bunch of shows. And
he's looked worse at the last few shows. He's looked very downsized. So
yeah, I felt that he might also have had some fake gear. Maybe just his testosterone was real or something like that. Because he looked like, a little bit like the air was out.
Yep.
And but he was in condition. So I don't know. Maybe the stims and the testosterone was still kind of working, but the rest not. I'm not sure. Because he used to look way fuller and way bigger, and I can't explain how he got that much smaller.
Well, who knows? His diet could be messed up. There's so many different factors going into it. It's not just gear.
Yeah. So I guess what's your pick? Like, if you got a bet, who are you betting on?
I would say based on past performances, Krizo, but I like Sasan better.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe he has a little home advantage. They seem not to do that anymore, which I like, really. When Regan lost in Canada to Sasan, I think there was another show in Brazil or so where the Brazilian got second. I don't remember. But I feel this is kind of gone, and they're almost afraid to let the home guy win if he's not really ahead. So I don't think that's a real advantage. Like, at least this year, it seems like there's no advantage for people. But I want to bet on Sasan just because I want him to win, and I think he's going to present himself better. And he's going to beat Krizo in a bunch of poses where Krizo doesn't pose well.
Yeah.
So I'm saying Sasan. Maybe Holvik, I think he always comes in good shape. He can pull up maybe a third place. And there's obviously this Jordan Pradels who could also win. I don't know how the shape he's going to bring. He could be.
I've not seen enough of him to
Yeah.
make a judgment on him.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch in the past, and everyone's like, "This guy is huge future," and then he pulled out, I think twice, because something happened. So I hope that now he's actually going to step on stage and be in good shape. I don't know who his coach is. That would be interesting, but
I'm always skeptical about people who haven't performed.
yeah,
because we always hear about the next greatest thing, and then most of the time they fizzle out and become nothing.
yeah, oftentimes that's right. So, want to switch to the Mexico Pro already?
Yeah, let's go there.
Let's do that. Okay. That's the guys. There's a bunch of guys that have potential, but they, Hassan Mustafa, does he come in shape? Regan Grimes. I just heard Regan Grimes actually was allergic to corn, and apparently Pro-Tan has some corn in their tan. So I want to call him. Now it's too late. But a friend of mine brought me this German Universum Top Tan. And I can ask them, but they might not have any in there. So that might, because that's a great color. Really great color. Sticks very well.
Yeah.
In Germany, everyone had competed always with this Top Tan just until at least 2020. And now, obviously, with the service that people are using more, I think Pro-Tan is coming in there as well. But this Top Tan is super easy, and you just take a roller, like you put color, like you paint the wall. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they're called, paint roller, and it easily sticks to you. Like I need like 1 or 2 layers. I'm good. I'm very lucky with tan, but that might be. I just hope it won't. That won't be.
Yeah, that seems to be a downfall of his. Is his tan just never seems to be quite right.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like such a stupid thing, because as a pro, usually everyone has figured out their tan. So it's just there's so many things that are way harder to get right. The question is like Sean Clarita versus Tonya Burton. They're both not the biggest, obviously. They both have good shape and very little weaknesses. I would still think Tonya would win. But if Tonya is not really in shape, Sean was tremendous and improved his X-taper a lot. So it could be between those two guys.
Sean he's won pro shows and beaten a lot.
I think he's even beaten Regan before.
He has
2 years ago or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible. I hope for Tim Budesheim, my friend from Germany, obviously, that he's gonna nail it. I think he's gonna nail his conditioning this time, but his waist got a little wider. I think it's because of this. He had a little hernia. He had a surgery too, but maybe it's not really gone, because it seemed like his waist got a little wider than last year, and yeah, it never got wide. Actually, it was always the same, but this year it got a little wider. So I hope Tim is gonna do well. Let me see if there's an update on him.
Yeah, he didn't do well on that last show he did.
Yeah, it looks just a little wider than usually. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty wide. Especially, it makes his legs don't look, very flared with that wide waist.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it's not distended or anything. It's just wide.
And he actually has really good legs.
Yeah. It's just his waist is really wide. It's just wide hips, huh?
Yeah. I don't know if there's something from last year. Let me see. No, it's all from this year.
Structurally, I guess he just got wide hips.
I think this is from last year.
I mean, he's got it all going on. He's just got that waist is so wide that it makes him just look kind of blocky.
Yeah. Yeah, let's hope he can twist a little bit or something like that. Let's look at someone else.
I want to give a shout out to my friend Brett Swanson. He's
always shredded.
He will be the biggest, most shredded guy on stage, probably of anybody.
Nah, he won't be the biggest. I'm sorry. There's Hassan Mustafa.
Yeah, maybe.
Mustafa is the biggest.
I'm saying he was in condition. I don't expect Mustafa to be in condition. He never is.
That's true, but he had a little more time, and he wasn't conditioned last time, so he might get a little better. I hope he will, for his sake.
I don't know. This guy never comes in shape. I think we've seen him in sort of shape once. In the last,
if this is current, then he's not in shape.
Yeah, he just doesn't go. He doesn't go there. I don't know. The last show we saw, he just wasn't in shape.
He was so long with Aceto, and Aceto couldn't figure it out. So I don't know.
I feel like he just probably just doesn't diet hard enough or whatever. I don't know.
Me neither.
But I know Brett is in shape. He's shredded, and when I say big, I don't mean he might not be as thick, but Brett's a big dude, like tall and wide and big. He doesn't have the greatest structure. That's what holds him back. But just overall size.
Okay, we have 3 days out. Antonio.
Yeah, he looks damn good.
Yeah.
I would say, Sean's going to have a tough time with him because he has a great structure and he's got all that and the conditioning and everything, and he's bigger. So I think Sean might have a difficult time, but Sean, he was hard as nails at that last show. And I mean, as short as he is, he's huge on that frame.
That's true, but damn, he looks
Antonio
really good.
looks he's really good.
I mean, I haven't seen him that shredded. Even if there's a filter, there should be a filter on it. I don't know, but I've never seen him that good. I just wanted to see the front double again because it looked like his right lat had like a little issue there. A little like hole. Yeah, it should come now. Now. See that?
Yeah, I do.
Here?
Yeah, you know what that looks like?
What do you think, a tear?
Yeah. For sure, because I got the same thing on both sides from tearing my lat.
The thing is, if you had it on both sides, it wouldn't be that obvious.
Well, it is because it just there's like indentation right there.
Yeah, but it would just be symmetrical, And
right.
Now it's like, and this looks a little wider too. And this side, I don't think it's going to hurt him much. But I just realized it. And but I think like if he looks as good as here, Clarita can't win. We never know how they're going to peak, but that looks crazy impressive. That was the most impressive update I've seen of his ever. So, but
I wouldn't say can't because he's beaten a lot of open guys and
Clarita looks better this year. Like he also looks his best.
His best ever. I mean, he pushed Keon hard.
Yeah, there were some people that had Clarita winning because of Keon's midsection.
and Sean was just hard as rocks. He was granite hard.
Yeah, he doesn't show any updates, but look at this. See that?
Yeah.
he got way more taper. So he showed me those pictures in the gym, not those pictures, but he showed me his updates in the gym, a week out, and even a little more than a week out. That's why on the podcast with Bob Ciccarillo, I said, you know what? Like, Sean is like dangerous, but I also see that his left leg is tremendous, like way bigger than his right leg. So
you don't think it's just the way he's posing it?
If they see that,
you don't think
it's just a posing thing. I think it's really bigger.
Huh.
But he looks, way better than last year. Tremendous work he's done. I hope I'm going to get to interview him or John Jewett soon. I would not like to do it over the internet. I would love to do it in person. But, they did such a great job. I would like to get some insights on what they did.
Well, while we're on this subject, Regan Grimes just posted, literally right a few minutes ago, that I guess Lee Haney came up with an idea that they should have height classes.
Division,
like under 5'7" and under and over 5'7", and then the overall winner of each height class, instead of having a 212, they would height class them, and then the overall would compete like Franco and Arnold did back in the day. What is your thought about that?
I think it's not good because, imagine you're a really good 212 guy, shorter guy.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they would give the same prize money, which they won't, because you could be second in the shorter class, but you could be so good that you could like be top 5 in the higher, like in the bigger
just
class.
now we just saw we had Derek and then Hottie.
Yeah, we don't know where they're gonna make the cut.
No, but I'm saying you would say Derek and Hottie would be in the short class, and then you'd have Andrew and Samson in the tall class. But obviously the placings didn't work out like that. So if you had it separated, Derek technically would have won the short class, and Andrew would have won the tall class, and Hottie would have been second in the short class, which was not fair because he doesn't get compared to Andrew at all. And he beat Andrew.
I agree. So, I think there should be, like, the open class is open for a reason, just the best against the best. And it's just, if you don't care about any placings and you just care about first, then it would make sense. But since bodybuilding is not only about who comes first, also with the prize money, I don't like it. I don't like that you would separate people that should be compared.
Yeah, they
might never be compared because they're not first.
Yep.
So I think it's a stupid idea.
I think even at the Olympia, it wasn't fair that Martin wasn't really compared with the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of was, because there was the first call out was 6 people.
Yeah, but
so
then
it was not like he was never against them. But I see what you mean, that he wasn't.
He was compared one time, and then they put him off to the other.
He could have gotten more comparisons after. I agree with that. I think he would have deserved it to be compared to Samson at least. Yeah.
When I watched it live.
Yeah.
When they first did the first comparison with the 6 out there, I wasn't convinced who was where yet, because it just was too fast. And it wasn't until they did several rounds of comparisons that I started putting, who in front of who. And, you know how Steve keeps recomparing them over and over again. And as he did that, you started to see who stood out and who didn't. Martin only got compared that one time. He never really even got compared next to that Samson hardly at all. And I think if he did, he would have probably beat Samson, because he was spot on.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess, the judges will have had it so clear. Like, for them, it was obvious there was no way for Martin to get in fourth. For the fans and for you, it was different. Maybe you should just do it also to show your like to validate what you might feel before.
Look, if
So
he got compared directly over and over again, then I
yes,
would be able to form an opinion, but we didn't really see
exactly,
that.
yeah. So even if you're a judge and you're super sure, maybe you should still compare them for the athletes and the fans, the audience, and maybe also the other judges. Maybe they're not as sure as you are, because they're not like
Yep,
Steve can't communicate with them as fast as he calls the call outs. He
exactly.
calls the call outs, and it doesn't mean that the other judges agree with everything. They don't have time to compare. So
Well, I think
it's a
there was
one
a
man
little bit of
show, and the other judges have to be like, are we aligned or not? Kind of.
I think there was a little bit of, we know Samson's already fourth, and we don't want him to be lower.
Yeah, maybe too. Yeah, maybe they're like, oh man, we can't do that to him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and we can't expose it.
But
I
if
don't
he's
know.
that off, that he could have got even lower.
But I I don't know. Yeah, it could be. But I think it was okay to have him in fourth. I think he actually looked really good. Just the problem is he didn't look as good next to the others. He almost looked a little better by himself structurally, but muscularly and from a density standpoint, especially his back, I found
Yeah,
back was tremendously worse. Um, his I don't think his legs were that much worse. Yes, they were. And his arms were also a little less. His structure was nicer, but yeah, I don't know how they lost so much muscle. They must have lost. They I heard like someone claimed he was just 4 pounds lighter, but he looked like 20 pounds lighter to me.
uh, I don't know what the weight was, but he was drastically sucked down.
Yeah, I would
I
agree
don't
with
know.
that.
I think he just pushed for, like he pushed for conditioning too much, and he went past the point of, where he could go.
Do you think Brandon should have beat Nick? A lot of people see it like that way.
Honestly, I when it was happening, I didn't compare them that much because I was looking at everybody else so much, so I wasn't paying so much attention. But in hindsight, looking at it, I think structurally he was much better because Nick's waist was just too big. So I would have to relook at that. I wasn't focusing on Brandon versus Nick during the actual competition because I was so much paying attention to the other guys.
Yeah, I think it's still okay that Nick beat him because yes, Nick's waist was way wider, and that was definitely a big knock on him when you looked at him from the front relaxed and the front double. But in the side shots and the back shot and the leg definition was still way superior than Brandon's. And Brandon is more aesthetic and the silhouette is better, yes. But I don't think he could overcome, Nick's muscularity. And even though Nick didn't nail it, he was still drier, like harder than
Yeah, Brandon
Brandon.
doesn't have deep separation.
Yeah, so I still I think it's okay. I think I have still Nick in front of Brandon. I would rather have good Vito further up front, but I'm pretty alone with that. I feel I rather had Vito beating both of the guys than Brandon switching with Nick.
Mm.
But yeah, and I don't see that Vito's back is so weak. It's not the greatest back, but it's pretty wide and it's not bad. And the rest of the back shot is also pretty good when you look at the glutes and the hams and the
Yeah.
legs and like overall, like they're sweepy. So I think he's a little underrated. I think Sauce should have gotten way higher. Um, I think he should have beat Regan and Urs um, and Jordan and Berouz That was like maybe. So I think Sauce and Barus should have been like kind of in the same ballpark, and Sauce was only 16th. I think that was not okay. He was just overall way too good, way too little flaws, way too hard that he would not have beat them. But yeah, I think he's okay with it, but I think he should have done better.
I just think his shoulders are a little narrow, so he doesn't stick out on stage.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah. I mean, like Derek, he's so wide. As soon as he came out on stage, it's just like overpowering size.
But you had Derek in first?
I had Derek in first from the get-go.
Okay.
Like, he came out and he was just so full and big. And, you know, people are confusing conditioning with separation. You can be super conditioned and not have a lot of separation. Like Derek doesn't have a lot of separation in his front of his upper body, but his skin was thin. You could see that, but you could only see that if you were up close in person. You can't see that in pictures. So when you're looking at pictures shot from far away, you can see separation, but you can't see the conditioning. And he was conditioned and big. He was bigger than everybody up there pretty much, except for maybe like Nick was bigger, but with a big waist, but Derek was bigger with a small waist.
Yeah. I had Derek winning too, because, yeah, Hadi had some asymmetries, like his right leg way smaller. And also I feel like, sure, from the front, Hardy is harder, but Hadi is not as hard from the back. And
Right.
they seem to, I don't know, a lot of people seem only to see Hadi's upsides, and the weaknesses, they're like,
Well, just overall size, just Derek was bigger.
yeah, especially the legs from the back, they looked very small.
His legs were way bigger.
And he didn't show much hamstring separation.
Yep.
So I'm like, Derek had less weaknesses. Derek's weakness is his, front double arm separation, but his taper in the front double is amazing. I still don't like his front lat spread, but Hadi got way worse in the front lat spread than he used to be, because like he used to be very good in the front lat spread and would have beat Derek, easily with previous year's front lat spread, but he didn't have that. And then he had the leg issue, and he wasn't as peeled from the back. And yeah, and muscularity wise, not as balanced. So for me, it was totally okay that Derek won, and he also didn't win by a landslide. He won by 1 point, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, 1 point in that he won by 3 points at prejudging, and then 1 point he lost by 1 point at the night show.
Yeah.
So some judges did have Hadi ahead at the night, but he was already too far ahead at prejudging.
So I agree. Sorry, I agree with that judging. I think it was fine. And people will always, you can be like, yeah, the most impressive and aesthetic guy is Andrew Jacked, right? But it's also still a muscle contest. And when you factor that in and you want muscularly a little more balance, and Andrew was hard, but he was not super mega peeled. He could have been still a little harder, especially from the back. From the front, he was really good. I don't know what it is that he just can't show his adductors. I think they're there. I think he just doesn't flex them. And it looks like his legs look a little incomplete that way, because you have the really deep separation in the middle and outer head of the quad, but then like there's no separation in the inside, so that the whole inside of his quad is like not separated and it's just flesh. And I think that's just a posing issue, and if he gets that right, that will help by itself. and then he should try to put some more tissue on the legs, the inside of the legs and the glutes and the hams. The glutes maybe not even, and then
Well, he's
yeah,
just really tall, and
yeah,
when you're that tall,
it's
hi-
tough.
his for his legs to be proportionally the same as Derek's, they'd have to be humongous.
Yeah, it's kind of
Derek.
like Samson, where Cedric McMillan. Cedric McMillan had really long legs, short torso like Arnold,
Mhm.
but the legs were huge. Yeah, so I wonder where Cedric McMillan would be
And
if he would nail
you
it.
can't just give him like say, oh well, he's tall, so he can't do it because
Yeah, yeah.
Ronnie was tall, not as tall, but he was tall, 5'11", and he had the legs huge from
You,
every
you,
part.
you got to judge what you see. You can't be like, well, he has a disadvantage because X, Y, Z. Maybe he has better genetics and just doesn't train as hard or as long as Derek. Like, who knows? Who can tell? I can't
Right.
tell. So maybe he has other factors that play way more in his favor, genetically. So obviously, you can't make excuses for someone. Then I would win more shows.
Right.
If it's like it just merits, then
Well,
I would win
whatever it
more
is,
shows
whether it's
because I've been
genetics
doing
or
this
work or
15 years,
whatever,
not like
at the
Jose
end of the
Murphy.
day, it's just what you're presenting on stage. It doesn't matter how you got there.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if on the way, I don't know, your dog got killed or whatever. Like everyone has their obstacles, and if it's genetically or life or whatever, no one will, and it's more unfair to care actually than to not
Well,
care.
I'll tell you what was impressive was Derek tearing his pec.
Yeah, it's insane that it healed so fast.
Well, it obviously wasn't a full rupture because if it
Yeah,
was,
of course
he'd be
not.
screwed.
Yeah.
But it was torn enough that he got pretty severe bruising, and he was still able to train it enough to maintain fullness and size in his chest, and you didn't really notice anything like if he didn't say anything, you would never known.
And the crazy thing is, he said so. It happened 32 days out, and in his video, he commented and said it was 16 days out, and he said he could already train like 100%, which he won't because he's still being careful, but he feels at 100% after 16 days. I mean, peptides are great, but that's also really, really good recovery. So good on him. I mean,
Well,
but I think Derek can be still way better. He did not peak perfectly here. I mean, size wise, he did a good job maintaining his legs, which sometimes was an issue. But he should come harder. He can be better. He
well,
was
he
better.
was harder in at the Arnold.
Yeah. So the Arnold's was still his best package. Was not as good at the Arnold's as the Arnold's.
Well, I think they might have intentionally.
I mean,
Maybe they intentionally brought him in a little bit bigger.
yeah, maybe they also felt like he's a little more tired and such, and if they peel him down more, there might be it might look worse.
Well, he had that issue backstage.
Yeah, I think it's diuretics, right?
So basically, Dave Palumbo tried to press Chris Aceto on what happened, and Chris wouldn't talk about it. So it's all speculation. But, some people were trying to say like Derek was having a mental breakdown. I don't believe that.
So I heard that Chris was working with aldactone, and Derek was loading with Pringles. And aldactone is potassium sparing, and Pringles are full of potassium. So that can make your heart stop if you overdo it.
Well, he was actually, I don't know about the Pringles, but I saw him eating a lot of rice cakes.
Yeah. So the rice cakes would have been fine, but so the Pringles would be Yeah, it could be a problem. It depends on how many and how much like he's been eating before. But
Well, regardless,
yeah,
I'm almost positive it was a diuretic issue because
yeah,
what else? I mean,
yeah.
actually, at one point,
It could have been blood sugar. It
nah,
could have.
because
It happened to me before. So one
yeah, but
time,
you can just eat.
yeah,
You have
but
blood
one
sugar, you
time
can
I
just
had
eat.
this. So there was this guy in Germany came out with some rice drink stuff, and I
Uh-huh.
was carving up on that. And then I had to go on stage, and my blood sugar dropped so bad I was like about to like totally faint, and I had to like lay down, sit down, and then I had to do my routine, and I was like half asleep, like during my routine, like very weak.
So what happened is your blood sugar spiked and then it dropped.
Yeah, exactly. It totally dropped them. It
Hmm.
was such. It was. This stuff is so fast. You have to keep drinking and drinking like crazy.
Yeah,
Probably.
I use that post workout, and I've used it for carb loading with
Yeah.
myself and competitors. It works good.
So yeah. So I drank, and then I should have probably kept drinking and drinking. And I didn't. I think it was maybe like half an hour before, and then
Yeah,
I didn't keep drinking for half an hour, and then it probably like boom boom, and I was fine, but I was like, damn, I'm dying. I felt like I was dying. Like when your blood sugar is
yeah. When you're
really low, you think you're
hypoglycemic,
dying. Yeah.
I
So
would
yeah.
I would thinking that it was the second day. I know I've actually done that where I competed 2 days in a row. I did it at I did the Excalibur, and then the next day I did the Masters USA, and so I had to stay dry for like 2 days. And I can tell you, on that second day, I felt horrible. I just felt horrible. I couldn't wait for it to be over. I had a bad headache. I was just so dehydrated, and it was
Yeah.
just too long to be like that. And these things going on for 2 days, and then also it was like towards the end, it was getting late at night. Just too long being dehydrated probably put him in a bad spot.
Yeah, Lee Priest and I talked about that too. The podcast is going to come on Sunday. I've this making this a 2 day show is very unhealthy, especially for the open guys. They have to wait like twice. They have to go on stage like late at night, which is usually when they look their worst. And don't we all want to see them at their best? I mean, that's the whole. So I'm like really, really advocating for, I don't
They
know,
said
just
that they were going to put him first.
yeah,
Um,
do it in the
and
morning
they
and then
No, I
and
mean
then do it.
even at the night show, they said they were going to put him first, and then they
Yeah.
didn't.
And then start the night show a little earlier. And what I also think is an idea is that if obviously it's going to be more expensive, maybe that can be kind of pulled in through the expo or something. I don't know, but I think it should be distributed on 3 days. It's just too long. Like all the divisions in one night, like half
Yeah.
of the divisions in one night, it seems to be too long.
Well,
It
the
just
thing is, they
yeah.
want everybody to sit through all that shit,
Yeah.
and
They put
they
it in an
know, like,
order so the less popular divisions they keep watching so they won't miss what they want to watch. But maybe they can still distribute it in a way that the same thing would happen on the third day. So
well,
if
you know what they remember what they did in Pittsburgh is they put the woman on
yeah,
Sunday,
that
and
that you can't do
the
obviously.
men were on Saturday, and
Yeah.
no one came on Sunday. The place was full on Saturday, and then Sunday it was a ghost town. Hardly anybody showed up to watch.
Yeah, you still have to, maybe you do the classic on one night and the open on one night and then the 212 at one night. So in every night you have a big bodybuilding division. Maybe put the men's physique to the 212 because the men's physique might be also a little more popular and the 212 might be the least popular of the three.
I
So
don't see them changing the 2 day
yeah.
format only because they want to sell tickets on both days. And if you had it on a 1 day format, everybody just buy tickets for the 1 day. So if they want,
yeah, I don't know.
they
I
want to
don't know
sell
how many
those
people
tickets.
want to see the 212 and the classic. I
Yeah,
could
but
see
not
it
as
being,
many. I
I
bet
could still see it being sold out for the classic. I could, but maybe not the 212. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the Friday was also only 212, so there was no. But there was the open prejudging. Yeah, I don't know.
They want to sell those
You
tickets,
know,
so they want people to buy tickets for both
yeah.
nights.
It could be that it's not lucrative enough. Absolutely, could be.
Yeah. And if they put it on one day, then well,
But
I
I
guess
think
they could still sell prejudging and night show tickets, but again, you're going to have the situation where the majority of people are going to show up for the men's open, and then the other divisions, not as many people are going to come to see that.
or you just sell tickets that include all nights, and maybe you like it would be more like empty, but they still are going to sell the tickets. So you could do it that way. I think that it would still be sold out. So it might not be as crowded because people won't go even though they have tickets. But I still think they would sell out. So
Yeah,
that
I
would be an
think they
option.
want to, even during the show, they were showing like the crowd, and they want the crowd to be full.
Yeah, but there's
You know,
still people that go out. Like Fuad Abiad said, he only went in for the open, and then he stayed in the lobby at the bar.
well,
And talked to people.
honestly, what happened was when the women were on, everybody went out front to the bathroom and whatever.
Yeah,
They didn't sit there. I wasn't watching the whole thing. I mean, I watched the women's bodybuilding, but when the bikinis and stuff, I went outside. I wasn't like in there watching it.
yeah. See, so yeah, that's gonna happen anyways. If it's too boring, it's too boring. So yeah, we don't. I don't know. We'll see. Like we put out our thoughts, and
But they're moving it to the Orleans, so
yeah,
they're hoping to have a bigger crowd, and so they can sell the tickets cheaper, because the tickets were super expensive this year, and I think that prevented as many people from maybe going, even though they were sold out.
yeah. And there's way more.
And
way
what
more,
was interesting? They were sold out. All the VIPs were sold out like the first week. But when I was at prejudging, there was a lot of open seats. A lot of open seats that people just weren't there.
A lot of these people that like are willing to afford those tickets, they might have so much money that they don't care. They just get them, because in case they want to go, they have the ticket. And if they're not end up going, they're like, well, I don't care. This is nothing for me. Maybe,
I don't know. Maybe.
Let's get into the China debacle.
Well,
tell us what you know about the issues with the gear, Larry, and the new updates.
Well, we knew several months ago that the factories in China got shut down because of the fentanyl problem.
Yeah.
And if anybody who doesn't remember, basically, Trump put tariffs on China because of fentanyl to stop them from sending fentanyl. So China went and shut down all the factories that produce fentanyl. And it just so happens those same factories that produce fentanyl, also the same factories that produce the raws for the anabolics. So they just shut them all down. And my understanding is there was one main guy over there, and I guess that owned, the majority of the factories. And when they took him out, I don't know if he told or what, but everybody else went down right after him. And they just shut down all the factories. And I guess there's a lab, it's called Janicki, that does testing. I'm not sure.
Janicki is the bodybuilder.
No. What was the name of that lab? We just saw it. They just did it in Think Big Bodybuilding.
Yeah, Janoschik.
Janek. Okay. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Or Janoschik, or whatever.
Something like that. But anyways, that lab was testing raws from people sending them in, and also from China was sending their raws for testing. And now they're getting no raws from China being tested because there's no raws being produced. So basically you have a situation where there's just no raws coming from anywhere. And I knew this was going to happen, and I don't know, some people didn't believe it or something, but now you're seeing a situation where, you know, I know, like, one source that I know, they have no more test sip and they have no more primo. They're out of stock. They had everything stocked up for a good amount, but that they're completely out of that, and they have no source of getting it. I've talked directly to people in China. They can't get raw material right now. So there's no raws coming out of China, and people are saying that India's going to step up, but you know, most of the stuff coming out of India is fake anyways. Even the regular pharmaceuticals coming out of there is a lot of fake stuff. So India is not a very reliable source. There's no other country that's actually made raws. And we've had situations in the past where they shut down all the labs around the world, like in Operation Raw Deal, when they shut down all the labs. And there was a dry spell for a while, but, you know, China still was producing raws. So new labs came. But now they shut down the lab, not the labs, but the factories.
Yeah.
And so there's nobody producing, and these factories in China were producing these raws not only for the black market but for the regular pharmaceutical. So I will bet you money that your regular testosterone that you get from your pharmacy is going to be hard to get. It's going to get difficult because no one else makes raws but China. Your raw testosterone cypionate that you get on your prescription, it may be compounded here in the United States, but the raw material is coming from China. And now that source is gone. So it's going to be a while. And in the meanwhile, already the people are making fake stuff because, you know, I guess the people that, you know, some of the people that have labs, you know, they can't get real raw material, and they still need to make a living because that's what they do. So then now they're just producing fake stuff. Not everybody, but I mean, I'm sure it's happening. And someone said it's going to be a natural natty Olympia. I would say that, you know, anybody who is a top pro who are smart probably stocked up on enough gear to last them for a while. Like I know I have enough for myself to last me the rest of my life if I never got anything else ever. And I don't take that much. I'm just taking like TRT doses, but still, like if I was competing, as soon as it happened, I would have just bought everything and stocked up because I knew this was going to come. But I think a lot of people, they're going to be shit out of luck. And we've seen this happen before. And that's a problem. The young people, they haven't lived through this. I mean, back when I was coming up in the 80s, I mean, you still had real pharmaceutical stuff if you could get your hands on it, but there was a lot of fake shit. And it was just hard to get. And people have been spoiled with the internet and China producing all this stuff in the last, you know, decade or so. But it's gonna become very scarce very fast, and you're gonna see it. I don't know if you're gonna see it so much on the pro level, because I think like the smart pros probably stocked up. At least I would. If I was a top pro, I would have stocked up. But on the lower levels, those guys are shit out of luck. You know,
do you think there's like no way everyone else like is going to start anyone else is going to start producing? Or
well, like I said, they say India is supposed to step up, but India is notorious for making just crap.
But is it that hard to make?
It is. You're not talking about compounding. You're talking about making raw material.
Yeah.
Testosterone is derived from Mexican wild yams. So they're taking thousands of pounds of wild yams and using some chemical processes and equipment to extract the testosterone and make it into a pure powder form of testosterone. And from that, they make all the other steroids. Well, only China has had the factories capable of doing that. The fact is, no other country in the world has those factories capable of doing that. And maybe some countries could make factories, but that's going to take time. They're not going to just pop up a factory overnight. You know, they need the technology and they need the money, and it's going to be time. And in the meanwhile, there's not going to be anything out there.
Yeah, that sounds bad. We'll see. We'll see how fast and if. Yeah.
I mean, eventually somebody's going to step up, because wherever there's a demand, the supply will come. But right now, there's no other countries in the world besides China that actually does this. And I wouldn't be surprised if you never, ever again see real primo balling. I'm serious, because, I mean, that's a really hard thing to make. And that's why the raw was so expensive on that one. And like I said, you may never see real primo balling again. The Bayer is the last pharmaceutical company that made it, and they're not making it anymore. So you might not see that. There may be a lot of things you just aren't going to see anymore.
Interesting.
People don't remember, like back in the day, when, like in the 80s, you know, we had access to real pharmaceuticals when you could get them, but it wasn't that easy to get them. You know, you had to be connected, and you had to know people, and you know, a lot of people just, their cycle wasn't determined by, like, you know, whatever they thought they should use. It was determined by like whatever you could get your hands on.
Yeah, that's what Bob Cicherillo even said. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like whatever you could get, that's what you took.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah. So I mean, I can imagine we're going to be back making just trembolone out of cattle implant pellets again. That'll happen.
Interesting.
Said zero effects of the wonder drug. I don't know what he's talking about. Is he talking about Mastron?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we talked about Mastron a lot. I don't think it builds muscle really well at all.
Yeah.
But, yeah, cool. So I don't see his point here. Like, what does it has to have to do with what we're talking about? Nothing. Okay.
No. I mean, all these anabolics that have been prevalent, you know, the last, everybody's, you know, had a list of things that they could get. It's going to be down to, you know, whatever is left and you can get your hands on it. You know, like back in the day, you know, people took Deca and testosterone because that's what you had. You know, you didn't have like just a list you could order from 50 different things. And I seriously think it's going to go. There's going to be a period of time. I don't know how long, but I imagine at least a year or more, where there's just going to be nothing. Because the people who have it are going to hold on to it. And then, I mean, whatever is real, there's going to be stuff out there, but it's all going to be fake. It's all going to be fake. Because people are going to sell bottles of oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we got through everything, right? So I'm gonna have to go anyways. If you want to like answer some questions or so, you can obviously stay on.
Did we have any questions in the chat?
I didn't see anything really.
Okay.
Some people just commented on what we were saying, but there was no real questions. There was just like additions, I would say.
What influence on the market do these huge TRT clinics have? Zero. They have no. Okay, TRT clinics are in the same boat as the UGL labs. They're still getting their shit from China, and since there's no factory, they're not going to have anything either. So they're shit out of luck.
Yeah.
It's just going to be that way. The only thing I would say is probably some of these TRT clinics, the big ones, they probably stocked up on enough testosterone to last them a few years. So since they only prescribe testosterone and a couple other things, they probably have enough to last a while. I would imagine.
I mean, if they're clever, like, you always have a depot of things, you know.
Well, like I said,
Yeah. If you have the money, of course.
If you have the money.
If you're small and you don't have the budget, yeah, that's an issue.
Right.
All right, Larry, I'm out.
All right.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, send them to our Instagrams for next week, and we have coming up. We'll be coming up with the Prague. We'll be talking about next week, and that should be interesting. And whatever else comes up in the meanwhile. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification, and we're out.
Bye-bye. And then with Luke again.
Yeah, with Luke. Luke should be back next week from his trip.
All right, Larry. You have a good weekend, and you guys too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I believe that the fires were cast upon, on the flames we shall become. I believe in a common calling.